I used to think I understood what a tidy and cozy home truly meant, until the day I stepped into Madame Madeleine Dufresne's house. In less than an hour, I found myself questioning everything I believed about cleaning and keeping a home. At this age, I've seen all kinds of people and all kinds of spaces, from the neat and spotless apartments of American seniors to small European homes where things aren't always in perfect order, yet somehow still radiate peace. There's something I truly admire about older Americans, their independence and their habit of keeping things in order. They live alone without complaint, tending to each corner daily, folding towels, wiping down the kitchen, changing the bed sheets. Everything has its place. But French women are different. They don't just clean their homes, they live in them with all their senses and with deep elegance. They prefer soft lighting over ceiling fixtures, place a small vase where you least expect it, and keep very few belongings. But each item carries a story. They live more slowly, but everything they do has soul. Madame Madeleine is a French woman around 70 now, living in California. She's the grandmother of my granddaughter's best friend, and I visited her one Saturday afternoon, intending only to drink tea and chat. But that afternoon ended up changing the way I live in my own home. In this video, I'll share the 10 secrets Madame Madeleine taught me. Small things really, but they might make you look at every corner of your house in a completely new way. Don't forget to like, comment, and let me know where you're watching from. Your support means the world to us and gives us the motivation to keep sharing meaningful things. Thank you for being here. And now, let's dive into the very first secret Madame Madeleine taught me. Secret 1, less but refined. Madame Madeleine once told me this: frank people think having more means living fully. But in truth, keeping less is what brings clarity. And the moment I stepped into her home, I understood exactly what she meant. The space wasn't big, but it made me breathe easier. Everything had room to exist, and nothing overwhelmed anything else. I noticed that on her bookshelf there were only a few well-read books, not piles of clutter. In the corner cabinet, there was just one flower vase and a small photo frame. She told me that every item in the house must answer 2 questions. Is it truly useful, and does it make me smile? If the answer to both was no, it didn't belong. She had a habit of walking through her house at the start of each season, stopping in front of each item, quietly asking herself those questions, then gathering what was no longer needed to give away or throw out without regret. She said that keeping too much doesn't make us feel safer. It only drowns us in our own living space. Old chairs no longer used faded perfumes, stacks of outdated papers. She let them go promptly, no hesitation. And she taught me a simple little habit that's easy to follow each week. Choose any room set, a 30-minute timer, and find 5 things that can leave. Don't push yourself to do it all. Just be consistent and honest with yourself. I started with my kitchen, and after 3 weeks the space felt so much clearer. To this day, I still follow that habit as a way to care for the peace I once learned from Madame Madeleine's humble home. Secret 2. Choose quality over quantity. Madame Madeleine didn't own many things, but every item she had made me stop and look a little longer. Her dining table was an old oak piece, its handles worn smooth by time, yet it stood firm and gleamed with age. Her tea set had just 4 cups, not a 12-piece collection like many Americans enjoy, but each one was exquisite and had been with her a long time. I asked her why she didn't buy more. She smiled and said Frank, we French like to keep what has lived, not just how much of it there is. She said when she shops for something, she always looks for what is durable, beautiful, and timeless, even if it means waiting or saving for months to buy it. As I looked around her home, I realized her words were deeply true. There was nothing brand new, but also nothing cheap. Everything seemed to have lived beside her through many seasons. The armchair wasn't fresh from the store, but still incredibly soft. The pan in the kitchen was heavy and strong, probably good for another 20 years. She said buying 3 things cheap and tossing them out doesn't match buying one thing right and keeping it forever. And she was right. I'd gone through 3 desks in 5 years, while hers had stayed for over 30. She also taught me a small habit before buying anything. Ask yourself, will I use this for at least 5 years? And if the answer is yes, then ask, is it worth waiting a bit, choosing more carefully and taking care of it well? Since then, I've bought more slowly, but my home has started to feel more beautiful, more stable, and less restless. Secret 3. The power of fresh flowers. Madame Madeleine always kept fresh flowers in her home, even if it was just a few wildflowers picked from the backyard, sometimes white daisies, sometimes purple lavender, or even just a few simple green stems. She told me frank, fresh flowers aren't for decoration. They're to remind you to live a little every day. She placed vases on the dining table, the kitchen shelf by the bed, places you wouldn't expect, but where your eyes naturally rest. She never tried to arrange them perfectly, just placed them in a small jar and let them be as if the flowers had chosen their place. I used to think fresh flowers were a luxury, but she said a bouquet doesn't cost more than a fancy cup of coffee, and if you divide it into smaller vases, the whole house feels alive. She often visited the weekend market to choose seasonal flowers, not rare ones, just fresh with a light scent. One day, I saw her using rosemary branches from the kitchen as decoration, and the scent blended into the air, making me feel like I was living in a home with a soul. She also advised, if you can't afford flowers regularly, choose long-lasting ones like lilies or Gerber daisies, and always change the water daily. Clean old vases just like you'd care for your mood. I started trying one small vase on my desk, a sprig of lavender by the bathroom sink. And just like she said, the house softened. Time slowed down and my heart settled. Every time I looked at the flowers, I felt grateful, like someone was gently reminding me to live more beautifully, even just for today. Secret 4. The art of proper lighting. One of the first things I noticed when entering Madame Madeleine's home was the lighting, not the bright glare from ceiling lamps, but warm, gentle rays like late afternoon sun falling on old tile floors. She didn't use overhead lights in the evening. She used table lamps, floor lamps, and even candles. Every corner had its light source at different heights. She said lighting sets the mood of a room, not the sofa or the paint color. I was used to flipping a switch and lighting up the whole room, but she would just turn on a small lamp by her reading chair and light a scented candle near the dining table. When I asked why she didn't turn on the main lights, she smiled and said frank soft light makes you slow down, soften, and live deeper. During the day, she opened the curtains wide to let natural light flood in and placed a large mirror opposite the window to reflect the sunlight. At night, she used low, warm yellow lights, nothing harsh, so the body knew it was time to rest. I tried doing the same, replacing the white bulbs in my bedroom with warm ones, adding a small lamp by the front door, and sure enough, the atmosphere changed. I felt more at ease. Dinner felt cozier, like sitting in a small cafe in Paris. Madame Madeleine taught me that lighting isn't just for seeing, it's for feeling. And from then on, I didn't just turn on lights, I created space to live. Secret 5. A dining table always ready for guests. I used to think of the dining table as a place to temporarily drop mail keys, plastic bags, and even unpaid bills. But at Madame Madeleine's house, I never saw any clutter on the table. Her dining table always had a neat tablecloth, a small flower vase in the center, and sometimes a half-burned, scented candle. She said, "The dining table is the heart of the home, and even without guests, it deserves to be treated as something special." She didn't keep her best dishes locked away. She used them every day because she believed every meal was worth honoring. I asked, "But what if someone drops by unexpectedly?" She laughed. "Frank, if the table is always ready, so is your heart." I started practicing her habit. Every night after dinner, I wiped the table, folded the napkins neatly, and moved all the papers elsewhere. By morning, the dining table became the first place that made me want to sit down. Some days it was just for tea alone, but sitting at a table that had been cared for made me feel like I was honoring myself. Madame Madeleine said, "A ready table isn't for show. It's to remind yourself that life is worth treating with care, even in the simplest of things." And I realized when the table is tidy, the house feels softer, and my heart opens up to welcome a new day, not waiting for guests to arrive, just ready for me to step in. Secret 6 Light Daily Tidying Habits. What surprised me most was how Madame Madeleine's house was always tidy, yet I never saw her cleaning. No frantic scrubbing, no loud vacuuming. Everything seemed naturally in order over time. She said she didn't spend her days cleaning, she just did a little at a time. Every time she left a room, she brought something back to its proper place. After using the kitchen, she lightly wiped the counters, folded the towels, and washed the glass she'd just used. Before bed, she spent exactly 10 minutes straightening chairs, folding blankets, and checking the windows. She called it a gentle touch to the house, so each morning she woke up without feeling overwhelmed. I used to think cleaning the house was a huge project that needed a whole weekend, but she taught me if you spend just 10 minutes a day, that's 70 minutes a week. And that's why she never felt tired from tidying. I began setting a timer. Each night before turning off the lights, I picked up a few scattered items, wiped the surfaces, and gathered dirty dishes. At first, it was an experiment, but slowly it became a habit. And now when I walk out of my room each morning, I feel like the house greets me with calm quiet. Madame Madeleine helped me understand caring for a home isn't about pushing yourself. It's about having small, gentle conversations with it each day through steady, simple actions. Secret 7. The importance of scent in a home. The moment I stepped into Madame Madeleine's house, I noticed a very light scent. Dry orange peel, a hint of lavender, and warm wood. Nothing strong or artificial like store-bought air fresheners, but something natural that made me feel comfortable. She said, "The French pay close attention to scent in their living spaces because scent is invisible, but it touches your mind first." She often simmered a small pot with orange slices, cinnamon sticks, and a bit of clove on weekends, letting the aroma drift through the kitchen and gently reach the rest of the house. In her wardrobe, she placed small fabric pouches filled with dried lavender to freshen clothes and keep bugs away. On the table near the door, there was a tiny bottle of pine essential oil with reed sticks. She said scent should follow the seasons. Spring is for floral summer, for herbs autumn for citrus and spice, and winter for wood or vanilla. She also opened the windows every morning, even just for 10 minutes to let air circulate and prevent musty smells from building up. I started following her lead, beginning with small changes, throwing out old scented wax, placing lemon slices and rosemary sprigs in hot water. I noticed that once my home smelled pleasant, my spirit calmed too. Madame Madeleine told me scent doesn't just beautify a room. It reminds you to live with grace, to slow down, and to be present. A home that smells good is a home that breathes. Secret 8. Curating meaningful books and personal items. I used to think a bookshelf should be packed full, the more the better. I'd stack books, throw in souvenirs from past trips, some photo frames I couldn't remember who gave me, and little figurines I kept for no clear reason. But Madame Madeleine's bookshelf was different. Minimal yet full of meaning. Every book had been read, marked, had pages, gentle folds, handwritten pencil notes. No matching color sets, no random decorations. She said, if an object doesn't stir real feeling, it's just filler. On her shelf were only a photo of her and her husband from 1978, a beach stone from Normandy, and a handwritten letter from her daughter. Each one had a story. She said choosing to keep something means choosing to live with it. If it doesn't bring joy or has no clear origin, say thank you and let it go. I looked at my shelves and began sorting. I made 3 groups: what I love, what I'm unsure about, and what I don't even remember owning. She reminded me, don't keep things out of fear of emptiness. Sometimes it's the space that highlights what matters. I kept less, but every time I looked at my shelf, I saw myself more clearly. Madame Madeleine taught me that curating isn't about having less, it's about understanding who you are and what still touches your heart. Secret 9. Blending the old with the new. One of the things that surprised me most about Madame Madeleine's home was how she combined things. A classic dark wood table stood beside a modern light fabric sofa. An abstract painting hung on an old brick wall. A French lace curtain was draped next to a stainless steel kitchen shelf. And yet everything felt perfectly harmonious. I asked her if she ever worried things might clash. She just smiled and said frank beauty lies in daring to let them stand next to each other. She explained that French people don't replace all their furniture when they want something new. They simply change a few details, keeping the soulful old pieces and adding new touches for freshness. The cabinet she used had belonged to her mother, but the handles were newly replaced. She laid a new tablecloth over an old table. She said, "The little mismatches are what create character." I followed her lead, starting by keeping my old coffee table instead of buying a new one and placing a modern flower vase on top. I changed the throw pillows instead of replacing the entire sofa. And surprisingly, my home started to feel more like me. Madame Madeleine showed me that you don't need to stick to one style. Just keep what holds soul and add what brings joy. Blending like that is just like life itself. A bit of old, a bit of new, some things carried from the past, others beginning in the present. As long as it's true, it will be beautiful. Secret 10. Turning the little things into everyday joy. Madame Madeleine didn't wait for a special occasion to use fabric napkins. She didn't save her nicest cups for guests. She didn't wait for a crowd to cook something delicious. She lived as if every day was worth celebrating. She used handmade soap in her favorite scent. Scent spread smooth linen sheets on her bed, and always had a carefully brewed cup of tea each afternoon. I asked her why she bothered with such little things. She answered, "Because it's the little things that make life." She wasn't rich, but she was deeply thoughtful. A beautiful cup won't change your life, but it might change how you start your morning. A clean napkin can make dinner feel more special even when you're eating alone. I began trying her way. Instead of drinking coffee from a chipped old mug, I chose a white porcelain cup I liked. Instead of using paper napkins, I folded a cloth one. And I noticed I sat longer, slower, more grateful. Madame Madeleine said living beautifully doesn't take money. It takes awareness. These little things don't cost much, but they make you feel worthy. That's how she cared for herself. And that's how she taught me to love the things I once thought were too small to notice. But through them, I truly began to see my house as a place to live, not just a place to stay. We've just gone through 10 French home secrets that Madame Madeleine passed on to me, from simple living and choosing quality over quantity to fresh flowers. Soft lighting, natural scents, light daily tidying, and fully embracing the little joys of each day. None of it is expensive. None of it requires fancy skills. All it takes is a bit of thoughtfulness and a lot of love for the place you call home. What I learned most from Madame Madeleine wasn't about how to fold napkins or place lamps. It was how she treated her house like a trusted companion. Every item she kept, every detail she cared for, was there for a reason. She taught me that a beautiful space isn't a perfect one. It makes you want to return. If you feel inspired by these simple secrets, start with the smallest thing today. A flower in a jar, a soft light in the corner, or just a quiet moment to ask yourself, what truly deserves to stay? Thank you for watching to the end. If this video meant something to you, please like, subscribe, and leave a comment to let us know you're out there. Your support is priceless. See you in the next one.